Have you ever looked at something in medicine and wondered how that came to be? Join us on Podcast Media for a special episode of The History of. All right, Tom, so for our first, The History of, I say first because maybe this will be something that we do, more often. So for the first one, we're going to do the history of the mammogram, Tom, and it's breast cancer awareness in October. And so I was thinking, I wonder what the history of that is. And so I looked it up and did some research. And so here we go. We're going to jump into this. So in 1913, a German surgeon by the name of Albert Salomon conducted a study of 3,000 mastectomies to determine if he could correlate known cancerous tissue to x-rays on the breast. And so what he was able to determine was there were some microcalcifications on the images that were known to have breast cancer, and so that kind of began the thought process of looking for cancer within the breast. However, World War I happened, and that kind of put a stop to his efforts. Moving forward, though, in 1927, a German surgeon by the name of Otto Kleinschmidt and Erwin Peyer actually conducted the very first mammography on an actual live human patient.
Stafford Warren in 1930 performed the first mammogram in the United States. He analyzed the role of a mammogram in pre-operative assessment of breast tumors. He also stressed the importance of examining both breasts as the comparison would help identify abnormalities. In 1960, radiologist Jacob Gershon Cohen and pathologist Helen Ingleby published Comparative Anatomy, Pathology, and Rowan T. Genealogy, whatever, it's a word, of the breast. This discussed congenital abnormalities and normal variations based on age, menstrual status, pregnancy, and lactation.
Another change in the mammography, or mammograms, was developed between the years of 1949 and 1951 by Raul Lebrigini. He's a radiologist from Uruguay. So he focused on microcalcifications to discriminate between benign and malignancy. The other thing that he developed, as I've never had a mammogram, but I hear it's not fun, was the breast compression technique, which actually allowed them to see the breast better.
In 1956, Robert Egan devised a technique of altering the waves to develop a screening mammography. This became known as the Egan technique. He is often viewed as a champion of preventative screening mammograms, as before they were done for diagnostic purposes on palpable lumps.
And then prior to the 1960s, there was not an actual x-ray machine dedicated to the breast itself. They would use x-ray machines that were designed for chest x-rays, and so the results were often suboptimal. That changed in 1969 when Professor Charles Gross developed the first x-ray device exclusively for mammograms. This was done by using a molybdenum tube instead of a tungsten tube.
Sure.
Professor Gross, like Egan, stressed the importance of mammograms for screenings instead of just diagnostics, because again, up to that point, they were just doing them if there was a lump.
In 1978, the moving grid for mammographies was introduced. This reduces scattered radiation and allowed companies to develop better equipment that produced better detailed images. The U.S. federal and state governments enacted laws between 1986 and 1992 that required hospitals to use dedicated machines for mammograms.
And in the year 2000, the FDA approved digital mammography. And so this allowed for storage on an electronic image directly instead of on film. And then in 2011, they approved the first hologic 3D breast imaging technology. And so that technology captures multiple images of the breast and allows the radiologist to go layer by layer, very similar to a CAT scan or an MRI, rather than viewing a single flat image, which brings us to today's times. So now you know the history of the mammograms.
Yes, and now every time one of my female patients gets very mad that it squishes their breast to get it, which I understand. I'm like, oh, that must be terrible. Now I know who to tell them to blame. Like, there's this dude.
If you like these history episodes as bonus episodes, let us know and we can do more of these. If there's lots of stuff out there that we can look at the history up of. So let us know.